Rosalynn McGinnis. In the quiet town of Pott, Oklahoma, a tragedy unfolded that no one could have imagined. 10-year-old Rosalynn McGinnis was the victim of a nightmare that lasted a long 7 years. The evil Henri Michel Piette, a 42-year-old man, didn't just bully the girl, he broke her childhood and turned it into hell. Piette didn't just abuse Rosalynn, he tyrannized her mother as well. Living in fear became routine for them. But even in this darkness, there was a glimmer of hope. Rosalynn's mother found the strength to break the chains. But Piette had no intention of letting go of his victim. Obsessed with revenge, he kidnapped 12-year-old Rosalynn right from school. Her mother, grief-stricken and desperate, rushed to find her daughter, but it was too late. Piette took Rosalynn far from home to Wagoner, Oklahoma. There, in a foreign town, he committed a heinous act, a fake wedding. For Rosalynn, it became more than a mockery. It became a statement. You are mine and no one else's. Piette insinuated to Rosalynn that her mother did not want her, finally cutting the girl off from her home and love. Piette mercilessly raped Rosalynn for several agonizing years. Their nightmarish path ran through the vast expanses of the United States: Texas, Montana, Idaho, New Mexico, Arizona. Finally desperate, they tried to escape to Mexico. Piette obsessively pursued the goal of making them invisible. He forced Rosalynn to change her appearance by recoloring her hair and wearing glasses. While imprisoned, she went by different names, as if stripped of her own identity. Life under Piette's oppression became a living hell. Rosalynn lived in constant fear, not knowing what to expect from her tormentor. The thought of escape tormented her, but she had no idea how it would turn out. In 2000, when Rosalynn was only 15 years old, she gave birth to her firstborn son by Piette. She subsequently gave him 8 more children. Each day was marred by physical and sexual abuse. The children, who witnessed their mother's suffering, became her only support. Piette indoctrinated the children that they were nothing, owing their lives only to Rosalynn. Without her, he said, he would have killed them. The children lived in an atmosphere of terror and cruelty. Rosalynn, at the cost of her own well-being, shielded the children from their father's wrath. Piette regularly beat her with his fists, beer bottles, and wood, severely injuring her. The children, aware of Piette's cruelty, did not suspect that their mother was a prisoner. Rosalynn, on the other hand, never forgot her abduction, and Piette knew it. At the age of 18, on pain of reprisal, Rosalynn was forced to report to an Arizona police station and report her escape. Piette uses his connections to remove Rosalynn from the National Missing Persons Registry. This allows them to hide from the authorities without drawing attention to themselves. Using the children as leverage, Piette keeps Rosalynn under control. He threatens her to take the children away if she does not obey him. Rosalynn, being a mother, cannot risk their safety. Piette moves Rosalynn and the children to a remote location in Mexico. They live in poverty, in a filthy tent, with no access to normal life. Piette spends all his money on drugs and alcohol, leaving his family destitute. With no other option, Rosalynn is forced to beg on the streets to feed her children. She hopes that one of the passers-by will help her or contact the police. In 2016, after 20 years of nightmare, Rosalynn and her children meet a couple in a remote supermarket. The couple notices suspicious inconsistencies. Rosalynn looks too young for her children. The children are emaciated and frightened. Piette, who is now 62 years old, acts like their father. The couple, disturbed by what they see, decides to intervene. When Rosalynn doesn't have enough money to pay for her shopping, the couple from the supermarket generously helps. The Piettes, realizing that their secret is out, hurriedly leave town with Rosalynn and the children. The supermarket couple, touched by Rosalynn's story, decide to help her. They realize that she is trapped and offer their help. This gives Rosalynn the hope of rescue she has been missing. Rosalynn's eldest son, taking a moment when Piette is passed out, leaves the house. This gives Rosalynn a chance to escape. After gathering things for herself and the other children, she runs into the house of her rescuers. The couple from the supermarket warmly welcome Rosalynn and her children. They listen to her harrowing story and are ready to help her in any way they can. Unable to find information about Rosalynn's disappearance on the internet, they help her find asylum at the U.S. embassy in Mexico. Rosalynn and her children's nightmare has lasted 2 decades. Physically, they are free, but the mental trauma will stay with them forever. They constantly look back, fearing Piette's return. Rosalynn, despite her fear, decides to take a bold step. She gives up her anonymity and tells her story publicly. By voicing her experiences, she not only fights her fears, but also helps others who have been victimized by similar crimes. Rosalynn's story becomes public. The whole world learns of her kidnapping, rape, beatings, and 20 years of captivity. She shares unbearable details, recounting her first pregnancy at age 13 and her abuse at the hands of Piette. Rosalynn's story evokes a storm of outrage and compassion. The world learns the face of the abusive stepfather who stole 20 years of her life. Through her courage, Rosalynn inspires other victims to keep silent and fight for justice. It took an agonizing year before justice caught up with Piette. Hiding in Dallas, he was arrested and charged with heinous crimes, but he denied everything, brazenly claiming innocence. "I never raped a child," he proclaimed to reporters. "I loved my wife, we were married." Piette lied shamelessly, claiming that 99% of what Rosalynn said was a lie. Despite the hellish ordeal, Rosalynn was relieved when Piette was finally taken into custody. But the nightmare was not over. In 2019, the case went to trial. For 7 days straight, the court listened to blood-chilling details about Rosalynn's 34-year nightmare. Piette tyrannized his victim for years using threats and violence. The prosecution presented irrefutable evidence of the constant sexual abuse of Rosalynn and her children. In June, Piette, 60, was found guilty of kidnapping and traveling with intent to have sexual intercourse with a minor. Rosalynn, exhausted by years of suffering, found long-awaited relief. Piette would finally be behind bars, where he could do no harm to anyone. In February, Piette was sentenced to life in prison for kidnapping, as well as 30 years for traveling to have sex with a minor. The court also ordered him to pay $100,000 in restitution to Rosalynn. Life imprisonment is a just punishment for a monster like Henri Michel Piette, the prosecutor said. For 20 years, he abused his victim and her children, causing them unbearable physical and mental pain. For 20 years, she lived in fear for her life and the lives of her children. Unfortunately, the injuries she suffered will stay with her forever, the prosecutor added. Today, Rosalynn, having gained her freedom for the first time since childhood, lives with her children in Missouri. The lost years cannot be regained. Piette has caused her incalculable damage. But now he's in prison and she's free. The resilience and strength that helped her escape the monster's clutches will be her support in her new life. Don't miss other shocking stories. Follow the link and share your comments.